Some facts stay with you because the turn is so unexpected. In this collection, ordinary objects and unlikely decisions lead to outcomes nobody would guess at first glance. At Poole Museum, the object people remembered most was not treasure. It was a child's favorite rock sitting among museum displays. The story starts simply. A 5-year-old girl gave her favorite rock to Poole Museum, turning a personal object into a museum donation. The unusual part came next. Instead of dismissing the stone as ordinary, the museum placed it on display like a real exhibit. That decision changed the rock's path. Later, it became the museum's most famous object, remembered not for rarity but for the story attached to it. Nothing about the object needed gold, age, or sparkle. In the quiet light of a display case, one ordinary rock carried enough meaning to stay with the museum. One future Disney legend got through the studio door because he was hired by mistake. Not as a myth, but as the start of cameraman Bob Broughton. Broughton worked behind the camera, the person shaping what the lens could capture. His story begins with a studio hire that was never supposed to happen that way. The key detail is simple and strange: Disney brought him in by mistake. The exact paperwork is unclear, but the accidental hire itself is the verified turning point. Instead of ending there, the wrong entry became a real studio career. He remained, kept working as a cameraman, and eventually was recognized as a Disney legend. That is why this small error matters. Somewhere on a studio floor, one mistaken hire left a steady pair of hands behind a camera. In 2015, Caroline Jones wore a different second-hand outfit every single day. A charity shop rail became the engine of a fundraiser. She was from Chester, and after her mother died of breast cancer in 2014, she started volunteering for Cancer Research UK. In Harpenden, she worked as a window dresser. Then she turned clothing into a visible daily challenge. By changing outfits every day for a full year, the tribute stayed public and easy to support. Her original target was just £1,000. The campaign reached 43,500 in 2015, far beyond the first estimate. That year also brought a Flame of Hope accolade and a Points of Light award. What began in grief ended with practical help hanging from a crowded charity shop outfit rail. In Brazil, a carnival group plays Beatles songs, but the strange part is how they move. The melodies do not drift like British pop. They march. That matters because the source is instantly familiar: Beatles melodies from Britain, carried into a Brazilian carnival setting. Same tune, different street, different pulse under the feet. The trick is not writing new songs. It is arrangement, meaning how the music is organized, and rhythm, as Beatles melodies are rebuilt as carnival marches. So your ear catches a known melody, while your body reads something else entirely. The song stops feeling imported and starts moving like part of the parade. That is the appeal, not imitation, but translation through rhythm. A familiar melody survives the crossing, then rides forward on drums, steps, and carnival air. An indigenous language from Alaska first went into writing with Cyrillic letters. Not the alphabet most viewers would expect, but letter shapes tied to Russia. The language was Tlingit, spoken by the Tlingit people across southeast Alaska and western Canada. It is endangered today, even as community programs teach new second language speakers. The key twist is simple. Tlingit's earliest writing system was based on the Cyrillic alphabet, so its first written form followed contact and available letters, not modern map expectations. That makes the surprise less about Tlingit itself and more about how scripts travel. A writing system can arrive through contact, then get adapted to a local language. Tlingit is generally treated as its own branch within Nadine, yet its first written shapes came from somewhere many people would never guess. Today, new learners meet that living language in Southeast Alaska classrooms. This music video did not start with polished effects. It was built from more than 2,000 children's artworks, stacked like a mountain of paper beside the song. The song was Meg Myers' cover of Running Up That Hill. Instead of one clean visual source, the video pulled its look from a huge collection of separate drawings. That scale is the key mechanism. More than 2,000 individual pieces were combined into one finished video, so the image came from accumulation, not a single design. The immediate result was a handmade surface. The cover's visuals felt assembled by many contributors, with each drawing adding a small piece to the moving whole. So the video's identity did not rest on one polished picture. It emerged as separate pages gathered, ordered, and turned into frames from stacks of drawings. In 1980, a Doctor Who serial was written by a 17-year-old fan. Not a contest winner, not a classroom exercise, but a real television credit. That stands out because Doctor Who was already an established series. By then, major TV scripts usually came from adults with proven credits and years around a production office. Here, the unusual part is the crossover itself. The writer was still a teenager and already part of the program's creative process, so fandom crossed the line into authorship. The immediate result was simple and startling. An established television serial carried a professional writing credit from someone most viewers would imagine still in school. So the story is not just about youth. It is about a fan moving close enough to the machinery of television to leave pages on a desk beside a glowing screen. One Doctor Who writer briefly wanted his own name taken off a story. Not after broadcast, but while the massacre was still becoming the version viewers would see. The serial aired on BBC One across 4 weeks in February 1966. It sent the first Doctor in Stephen to France in 1572, near the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre. Inside that setting, the Doctor met his lookalike, the Abbot of Andoise, while Stephen moved among Huguenots, French Protestants. But the biggest twist happened before transmission. The rewrites became extensive enough to unsettle authorship itself. John Le Carré and Donald Tosh are both credited on the serial, directed by Paddy Russell. The supplied fact is simple and stark: the changes grew so large that the original writer briefly asked to remove his name. So when audiences watched BBC One in February 1966, they saw a finished adventure. Behind it sat a stranger object, a story reshaped so heavily that even the name above the script briefly became part of the drama, like a typed credit line. If one of these stories surprised you, there are plenty more hidden in the details of history and culture. Subscribe and tell us which fact deserves a deeper episode next.